Hey everyone, I thought I'd do something different with this video and show the progress as it happens instead of once it's all done, so you can see how much a pain the collision detection stuff is. So what I've been working on recently is the item pickup, which you saw in the last video, but now there's these type of world objects. These you can't pick up, but you can click and hold, and I've added this functionality to the normal items, but also to these type of items which you can't pick up. They're interactable, that you can pick them up and drop them. You can destroy them as well. These are the type of items that'll have, the type of objects that'll have items in them. So with this, there was needing to be the player to that model collision, and then if you move it, you need to collide with the new position. So this is where I'm up to so far. I've done them. I've done the interact, press and hold, and it's still wonky. I've added a feature that if it hits another object, you just drop it, because before that it was just vibrating inside and outside the object. And then there's still this issue. See, if I pick it up, and when I pick it up it collides, it drops again. So this is one problem I need to solve, and there's one thing I need to handle, and I'll show this. I'm not sure how to handle the collide with player yet. It's still wonky. And then here you can see the problem with the collision I've set, which is when a player collides with the object, it inverts the player's velocity. So if I press forward, it moves backwards. But yeah, I'm going to prevent that. So that's one thing. And then this is one thing also solved, how to pass through the objects, which you saw. So originally that would pass through the object. So this is one thing that I've solved, but then this is a problem. Then the next thing is if you can grab through a wall. So this is another problem that needs to be solved. You can, not that one, but let's go over here through a wall. I'll put that there, and then I can grab it. Well, I can see it if I get into the right position. But yeah, you get the point. It's probably better with the smaller item. You could just pick up the item, or you can see the item through the wall. So that's another problem. So then another thing that needs to be solved is, well, this one's solved, how to carry only one item at a time. So when you have like this, so before this morning, you could pick up this item and then pick up this item as well. So that was one thing. And then another thing, how to have the items stacked on top of each other. So if you have like this, and I just solved this, but when you pick up this item, you have to really find a better solution for that. collision on pickup. But if I can just do something like this, then you should see a drop. And that's, yeah, it drops because it's no longer colliding with any model, so it'll drop. But this is another problem. If we have 3 items, we pick up this bottom one, then because both of those items are colliding with each other, then they're not going to fall. So yeah, that's another thing. Then if I pick this top one up, then the gravity applies to the bottom object. So this is just from adding this new object pickup type stuff. So then even if you destroy this, the other one will fall. But then handling the multiple collisions, because you can do something like this. And then we can just keep stacking them on top of each other. I picked up that one. And they just keep floating. And you can jump. So this, and then the OBB underneath for some reason has gotten longer. So there's all these different problems I'm currently trying to solve. So I thought I would try and, with this video, just focus on talking about the pickup objects, this ones, and the items as well. Like we can even stack that on top, and all the collision that goes with that. So yeah, this will, with this video, it'll just show my progress, and then yeah, hopefully you could see each stage and how janky it starts, and then hopefully it gets to a point where it's not. So this is where I'm up to now. And if you want to see the world collision before the fix, I had to up the frame rate because the recording wasn't even picking up on it. So yeah, that was before that world collision fix. So I added a fix for now. It's only doing half, but this is a way to handle it falling into the player. This is what I added. So if it's a world item, just invert the velocity, and the move vector is supposed to move forward, but it's not doing that just yet. So that'll be the next step, getting it to actually move in the direction it's supposed to, so it's not just bouncing on your head. Alright, this is where I'm up to so far after so many attempts. I pretty much have the moving models, the world items. When they're moving, they're going to handle a collision like the player. There's still a problem with that, but it's the closest thing now, because this is pretty CPU intensive, but it will only start doing it when the model's X or Z velocity is not zero. So if it's not stationary, like when you pick it up and throw it, then it'll start calculating this, even when you're carrying it. So I've upped the video quality as well, so this should be more clear to read. Now with this, what this is doing is, for, let's say it's the box, which is the moving model, and the tree is the static model. So when the box is colliding with the tree and its velocity is not zero, then what it will do is it's going to generate future bounds for each of the normals of the tree. So static model is the tree. Now at the moment this is 6 normals. It doesn't need to be, it can just be 3. So that's one improvement I can make here. These normals can be just the right normal, the front normal, or the up normal of the object it's colliding with. And then what it does with those, it gets a velocity for each of those normals. And this is the velocity using the future bounds of the object, which is the position plus the velocity. Now, that's this here, future bound. So here it'll add, at the moment, an array of size 6 of this, or it's a list actually. Now for each of those future bounds, it checks if the future bounds of the object with the tree, is that going to be still colliding? If it is, then this one is true. This normal collisions is true for that normal. Now if any of those return false, then we get this, B found free movement equals true. Now this is not ideal either, but I've got always position 4 and 5 as the top and bottom normals. So if it's colliding with the top and bottom, then it sets the velocity and acceleration to 0 of the Y. So yeah, if any of the result positions means that it's not going to be colliding with the tree anymore, then we say we found free movement. But if all of these return true, then we haven't found any free movement, and then we trigger this section here. So if this gets hit, that means all resulting positions that the box is going to be colliding with the tree is always inside the object. So we want to invert the velocity. Now this I want to change because I'm doing the same for the player, but if I do it to like return to the previous position, then there's times where you may get stuck inside, say, a wall when you're not moving. So like with rotating doors or rotating objects, and I've kind of already half resolved it because it pushes you away, but you still can get stuck. And if I'm using previous position, while you're stationary, the previous position is the exact same position. So you still stay stuck. That's why I'm doing this for now. And that's the same with the moving objects, so the box that you pick up. But yeah, if it does find free movement, then it uses the normal that will work, and then it pushes the model's velocity using the normal that will work. So this is how it looks so far. So you may notice for a little bit it still vibrates, falls through. So I'm still trying to solve that. So that, but this I put in so that, let's say when it's colliding with the tree, it will never get stuck like some of the earlier attempts. And then as well, I've added a resistance to the velocity of the model here. So over time it slowly slows down. It's like as it works in the real world. Like with some of the early attempts, you may have seen it just kept sliding away. Now that can be adjusted to what it's colliding with. So if say this floor has a low resistance, then the box can just keep sliding. But for now, it's just all the same. But yeah, as you see there, it just falls, and then once it finds its position, it settles, and it's after some time it resolves, but that's because I'm using 60 FPS. But let's say we uncap, it'll just struggles to resolve. And see, I don't know how well it's showing in the video, but it's constantly vibrating, and that means I can just push it. It's more noticeable then, but it's trying to find a position that it stays static, and it never finds it. So why it's doing this is half the frames it's saying it's collided with the floor, the other half it's saying it hasn't, and it applies gravity again, which is the falling momentum. So at higher frame rates, it just struggles to resolve. And then you can just, there, it's resolved then, so I can't push it anymore. But yeah, that's the last thing I think I need to do to resolve this. But at least now they won't get stuck in the tree or. But yeah, so that's why, as you saw with all the different attempts, all the different conditions that you need to try and resolve. Now, I tried with the AI, not for this, but with other things. I'm not going to try with the AI for this at all, with GitHub Copilot, let's say. And this is why it struggles a bit, because if you give it the problem, it needs to think about all these solutions as well. And then, yeah, maybe it'll think of a solution for one of the problems, but it doesn't handle the other ones. So yeah, this has just been me trying to resolve these and all the conditions that happen with this box object or any world item colliding with other objects, and they're still stackable. It just gets more vibrations. Yeah, see, like that's another problem. It's because their velocity y on collision is still upward. Yeah, they've settled down. So yeah, and then I think the other thing with the GitHub Copilot, when I link up my code, it's like, I don't want to deal with this spaghetti code, and then it just can't. So yeah, but that's where I'm up to with this. I want to try and finally resolve that last thing, which is the vibrating boxes never resolving. And yeah, hopefully I can get that done. So that's where I'm up to. Alright, now that most of that is sorted, that's, yeah, the falling objects, they don't pass through each other, they don't bounce, fly away, they collide with the world decently. Now the only things left is the not grabbing the objects through the walls or any other objects. I guess that's more about showing the HUD and yeah, enabling the interaction. So I'll work on that now, and I'll try and post the compilation of attempts just like the other ones. I think that once that one's resolved, the only other thing is what you saw in the last clip where you could push the crate into the other crates. It's not a big deal compared to pushing it through walls, and I might leave that in for now because I have such a different system for handling collision when it's a world item. So when it's a world item, it's all this code, because there's so many extra conditions it needs to handle because both objects are moving. So yeah, I'll leave it at that for now and get started with the trying not to grab through the walls. And then maybe as well the HUD showing the closest object. I don't know if I showed it much in the clips before, but when the multiple objects, say like the rat walking through the tree or the box is next to the tree, or even that rotating wall, it shows the HUD element of the tree or the wall when the box may be closer, and the more appropriate HUD object to show, because at the moment I'm only showing one object in HUD, not all objects that the aim ray, I was going to say aim vector, but it's a ray, collide with. So yeah, I'll probably get fixing that too, and that should hopefully mean that's all the problems with the moving objects, the pickup objects, and the point of this video. There's a bunch of other things I'll do, but I'm only focusing on, yeah, the pickup and movable objects in this video. Hey, so I finally got it to a point that I'm pretty happy with all the world item collisions. Just put this quiet so we don't hear the rat keep squeaking. So yeah, this is the state I'll leave it in. And that's handling most of the world collisions. I may still do something with how to pick it up. See, like when you try and, let's say we pick this up, it can't, because it can't find a free position for it to be in. So that's the last thing. Now, got them interacting the collisions pretty well now. So if we stack them up, let's say we move this one, they'll drop. I added a gravity delay as well. So that's why you see some sort of Looney Tunes type dropping going, and it's only 0.125 seconds. If that's longer, then yeah, it'll get real Looney Tunes. So like if we shoot this, I'll stand back and see, it just And that's to help with that boxes colliding inside each other type stuff. It's more of a problem at 60 FPS. It doesn't really happen at the high FPS. But yeah, that kind of solved that. We got colliding with the player into the non-world item objects like the trees and walls. It doesn't go inside. And yeah, like as you see, there's that it slows down the velocity as it falls. And then one other thing I'll show is the performance. Go into debug mode. Oops, debug me. Now the frame rate briefly goes bad here, and I'll show why, but it'll correct itself in a few seconds. There we go. So why it's dropping there is because I've added about 1,000 of these items and 1,000 of these items. And when the objects are moving, they're doing the full collision detection. But when they're in this resting state true, then they're not going to try and do any sort of collision detection to save frame rate. But the only problem is once you move the crate, the resting state will stay false. If I set it to true again, like let's say they're in these positions, and let's say they go back to setting to resting state true, when I take this one, they won't fall. So for now, this is how I'm leaving it. I tried a few different things and it didn't go too well. So yeah, overall, it's kind of like this. And yeah, the frame rate's pretty all right. If I take off debug and I look over here, it stays pretty decent. It drops for every item I pick up because it's going to check. So these two items, well, these three now, because I picked them up, they're going to try and check the collision with all the objects in the grid cell that it's in. And that drops the frame rate because there's so many. I made the grid sizes pretty big at the moment. And I don't know if you saw in the earlier videos, I tried the octree. But yeah, that's it for the collisions. Because yeah, when I didn't add this performance fix, I was thinking about like how Skyrim did it. And like with Skyrim, you can have hundreds of, say, gold bars and they're all colliding and they don't take up much of the frame rate at all. And I wanted something like that. So this is kind of getting it to that point. But yeah, I think still there's probably way better ways, but this is kind of what I've gone for. So at least now the collisions are looking pretty realistic and handling well with so many items. So that's it for the world items now, finally. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope seeing the process of trying to resolve one thing was more interesting than some of my other videos. And yeah, I'm trying to add more editing into these videos and see where I can improve, like with the mic, maybe my voice, maybe how I record, things like that. Like I think next video I want to try and have it recording at 60 FPS instead of 30, I think. And then halfway through this recording, I upped this resolution. So yeah, things like that. So over time, hopefully there's more improvement in these videos, just like the game. But yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about and demo with that. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next videos.